Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Today we are going to be calling it a wrap on my 2023 Pan Those Eyeshadows Project Pan. This has been such a fun project for me year after year, month after month. I have truly had so much joy doing this project. I have had so much success in doing this project as well as an opportunity to hit pan in so many of my eyeshadows in my collection, as an opportunity to just get use out of my older palettes and to reach for eyeshadow palettes that maybe I wasn't gravitating towards already. It has been a really great way to curb my overall spending and acquisition of eyeshadows as well. All in all, it has been a very challenging and successful project for me, and I have been absolutely loving this project, but I am going to be calling it quits for the next little while, if not for possibly forever. We will see. I might end up missing it and bringing it back because it really is something that has become so integral to my makeup routine and to just my way of interacting with my eyeshadows that I may not know what to do without it. I don't know, we will see. But I'm just gonna give myself a little bit of breathing space for now. We're gonna wrap up this project and put a little bow on it for now, but it may come back. Nevertheless, I do want to chat about how the last month of progress has been for my 4 focus eyeshadows. So I'm going to go swatch those shadows, share with you my color palette, and we'll hop right on into all that progress. So this is the little fall quad that I have been working with over the last couple of weeks. I'd say it's been maybe 5 weeks since I last filmed an update for this project, but nevertheless, this has been a really good kind of color palette to bring me into now what is fully winter, but it was the more early parts of fall feeling weather when we rolled this little color story in. Last update, I actually had rolled 3 of these 4 focus shadows in, and so I have been really playing around with this particular color palette in many different ways. I will preface this video and let you know that I did not take very many pictures. I don't know what it is. I'm kind of in a bit of a funk, but also I think because the days have been very dark and just very short, I don't really feel like I have an opportunity to take pictures of my makeup. But I have been wearing makeup quite often because it really is a great part of my daily routine. It makes me feel a lot more comfortable and confident for work calls, that kind of stuff. So yeah, not a ton of pictures to share with you in today's update as I usually have. I've just been slacking on that. I do apologize for that. So hopping right on into the shadow that has been in the project the longest, we have this shade right here from the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. The shade is called Ripe, which is a beautiful, rich, orangey shade. I'm wearing it today over the majority of my lids. It's just a really great warm color to wear with a variety of different neutrals specifically, but I do like playing with it with other colors as well from time to time. I've had this eyeshadow in the project for 3 collective updates now. Prior to today, I had used it 20 times. I've now used it 11 additional times, bringing me up to a total of 31 uses in this shade. But I have not yet hit pan on it, and it will still take me quite some time. Of course, I am wrapping up this project, so I'm not going to keep focusing on it. I do feel a little burnt out after using this 31 times and still not seeing a pan, but I was not expecting that I would be able to hit pan on it because this is a very pigmented shade. This is a very rich shadow, and it really didn't even look that well used until today's update. So yeah, there is a little bit of a dip happening in there. It's evident that I've been reaching for it quite a lot, but when you look at how deep the pans are in the remainder of this palette, the ones that I have been able to hit pan on, that looks like it's gonna take at least double the amount of work that I've put into it, and that's okay. I was actually able to hit pan in this shade here called Helena though this past month, which is amazing. I love this shadow. It is so beautiful. It's a gorgeous orange shimmer shade, and just given the texture of the shimmer, it's a lot easier to hit pan on, and I did have a really good dip in it prior to today's update. So yeah, at least I've been able to hit consecutive pans within this palette over this year. I've had this palette in this project quite a bit, but I'm really happy with where it's looking now. This is a very expensive eyeshadow palette. It's one that I had really dreamed of owning for quite some time before bringing it into my life. And so it's nice to see it looking as well treasured as I would have hoped it could be at this time. So no pan in Ripe, but this palette overall looks beautiful, it looks amazing. And I really did put in a lot of work on Ripe, a lot. Like 31 uses is a lot for me on a particular shadow. The next shade I want to talk about is one that you can barely even see the swatch of actually on camera. It is a very faint, light, peachy orange shade, and it comes from my Colourpop Alice in Wonderland collaboration palette. I believe it's actually called Lost in Wonderland, this palette. And the shade that I've been working on is called That's Logic. It is a really good matte kind of blending shade. I'm wearing it today to kind of blend out everything with the shade Ripe. And oftentimes I have been wearing these two in tandem just because Ripe is so pigmented and it is so rich that it can look a little bit choppy. So if I just go in with a little bit of That's Logic to really buff it in and create a more seamless blend, it's been perfection. In fact, I have worn That's Logic 10 times, so just shy of one of the times that I reached for Ripe, but I've been basically pairing them in tandem throughout this project this past month or so. And this is what That's Logic is looking like today. No new pan in here. I genuinely don't even know if I had even swatched this shade before rolling it in my last update. So that's great progress. Nevertheless, there is a little bit of a dip starting to form. I can definitely tell that this is used. And yeah, overall, I was really happy to be reaching into this palette. I used the shade Mad Tea Party quite a few times. I'm wearing the shade I'm Late on the inner portion of my lid today. And yeah, I've just been having a lot of fun playing around with this palette. Some of these more pastel shimmer shades paired really well with the shade that we're gonna talk about next. So this has overall been a really good palette to be focusing on, really good shadow to kind of try to get to know. But yeah, no new pan. It just wasn't gonna happen for me in a month's time if I was going on further with this project. If I was working on this shade for a couple more months, it would happen, absolutely no doubt, especially because I'm still working on Ripe. But I'm feeling very happy with how this palette is looking, how much I've gotten use out of this palette since I brought it into my collection in the beginning parts of this year. And yeah, That's Logic has been quite a bit of fun to use. And it's been a really good kind of essential workhorse kind of product for me in this past month as well. So the next shade is that vibrant, gorgeous, rich blue shadow. It comes from my Elf and J. Kissa To The Rescue palette, which is a beautiful palette that I've had for so long. I've had it since it came out in 2020, and it is something that I just oftentimes forget to reach for. So it's great that I rolled in the shade Canoli last update. I have used this shade 8 times since bringing it into the project. And like I said, it's a success story. I was able to hit pan on the shade Canoli, which is that shade right there. The pan in this is mighty small, but nevertheless, it is there. I used this several times all over my lid. I would use it kind of as a base shade or just as an all over blue smoky eye a couple of times, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful like that. It was so fun. So I was able to use a good quantity of product in those applications because this does require a little bit of building to get high impact. As you can see in the swatch there, it is a little bit sheer. It does have a little bit of patchiness across the swatch, but when I'm trying to get it onto the lids and I'm trying to build it up, I do need to kind of create more of a uniformity. So I reach into the pan a lot more often. But then in the last few times that I reached for it through this project, I actually was using it more so as a liner or as like a smoky lower lash kind of scenario. So I was using smaller brushes, and that's how I was able to hit pan. It honestly did completely catch me off guard that I was able to hit pan on this in just those 8 uses, but these are very shallow pans. And as you can see, I do have a few other pans in here, and none of them took me that long either because these are a little bit more of a dusty formula, and they are very shallow pans as well. So happy with the pan in Canoli. It was the most challenging of my focus shades by far because everything else is very neutral, but it was so much fun to play around with. I don't oftentimes find myself naturally gravitating towards blues because I just feel like they are the most challenging thing, and they're maybe not the most flattering on me, at least for my personal preferences. But I had so much fun reaching into Canoli, and I reached for Thatcher a handful of times in tandem with it as well. And I just thought it was so much fun. So that was great. And I'm so happy about a pan in this palette as well. And last but most certainly not least, we have this gorgeous metallic bronzy shade right here. This comes from a palette that has been in this project infinitely. It is my Nabla Soul Blooming palette, and the shade was called Garçon, and it is a shadow that I'm surprised I didn't already have pan on, because it is quite a neutral shade, and I have reached for Nabla Soul Blooming so much over the lifetime that I've had it in my collection. It's been about 5 years now that I've had this in my collection. In fact, this palette is like the best looking scenario out of all of my palettes in my collection. When I show you what this palette is looking like, you're gonna be just like floored. I think actually for me, like, this is what I would love to see all of my palettes look like. Here's what she's looking like. There is pan in almost every single shade in here now. There's just 2 shadows that do not have pan, because I did hit pan in Garçon right there. It actually only took me 4 uses, and I didn't want to say that before showing you this palette, because that sounded like I wasn't gonna hit pan on it, but somehow in 4 uses, I was able to hit pan on it. This is an older palette, so it does require a little bit more building, and I love high impact neutral metallics. So I just like slathered my lids in this several times, and the fact that I was able to hit pan in 4 uses was mind-boggling, because usually the scenario with these eyeshadows in this palette is like so much work has to get put into it, but I do think that is in part because of the age and just the way that I like to wear these kinds of shadows as well. But look at this palette as a whole. This is so exciting to me. I am so happy with how this looks. There is 1 empty pan in here, and then there are 9 additional eyeshadows that I've actually hit pan on. There is still a ton of product in here, but this is what I want everything to look like by the time it's like 3, 4, 5 years in my collection. And that's not the case, because I do have so many eyeshadows, but oh my gosh, this is just so great. Every time I look at this, I just get so happy. I wish that this palette was still available though, because I feel like this color story is still so beautiful and so exciting. So it feels very weird to be not rolling in 2 new shades to replace these 2 that I did hit pan on, but instead we are going to be talking about some statistics. We're going to be chatting some numbers to wrap up this project for the year. I hope that if you like makeup statistics, that this is kind of interesting to you. We're going to be talking all about my pan percentage. We're going to talk about how many eyeshadows I hit pan on this year collectively through this project and not through this project, and where I'm at altogether with my eyeshadow collection. So I do just want to say at the beginning of this kind of statistics portion that I have a total of 356 panned eyeshadows. So that is omitting actually the 2 eyeshadows that I was able to finish up this year. I did use up 2. So I did remove them entirely from all of these numbers, like Chamomile, which is in the Nabla Soul Blooming, no longer counts as one of my eyeshadows, even though it is a pan, but I just decided to remove them. So I have 356 usable eyeshadows in my collection. I did actually bring in 57 individual eyeshadows this year, and that surprised me. Those are all eyeshadows that I brought in through PR, because I have been on a no-buy for the entirety of this year. So yeah, through 5 palettes, I did bring in 57 new eyeshadows to my collection, but I was able to hit pan on 34 eyeshadows this year alone in my collection, 18 of which came from this project pan. So that is pretty cool. Those are some really good numbers. I feel like hitting pan in 34 eyeshadows, bringing in 57, I feel like that's actually a really good ratio. It's a really good proportion. I think moving forward, I would like to see those numbers maybe a little bit closer to one another, but I'm not going to be focusing so much in my Pan Those Eyeshadows project pan, so it could kind of change. I just wanted to look at all of those numbers, but I think what you really are here for is to hear about the pan percentage. So I have 356 total eyeshadows, as I said, 34 pans from this year, but altogether I actually have pan in 99 eyeshadows in my collection. And so that gives me a grand total of 27.8% pan percentage, which is absolutely massive. Over a quarter of my eyeshadow collection has pan on it, and I am so thrilled about that. I did bring in a new palette actually very recently, within this last week. I haven't even used it yet. I did receive this in PR. This is the What's Up Beauty Dragon Eye palette, and as you can see, it is absolutely glorious and gorgeous and stunning. So I thought when I added these into my numbers that maybe that would bring me down under a quarter of my eyeshadow collection panned, but no, that is not the case. I am over 27% pan percentage in my collection. I have no idea if I will ever be able to reach something like 50% or whatever, because I don't foresee myself ever like not bringing eyeshadows into my collection, but I feel like there is a chance that I may end up deciding to declutter a handful of my palettes in the coming months. I really just want to play around with my collection now that I am putting a pause on Pan Those Eyeshadows. And in early 2024, which feels so foreign to say 2024, but in early 2024, I plan on starting a project Level Up. And so I want to kind of go through my collection in advance of that, make sure that I would want to use all of my palettes in some sort of capacity. And so maybe some of my palettes don't need to come into the new year with me. I don't know. I have a lot of really old palettes, and I have a lot of palettes that I don't find myself wanting to reach for, at least without being prompted by this project. So I just want to give myself some space to think on that, plan on that, and see what's next to come for panning eyeshadows and for just my collection in general. So that is a very exciting finale, if I do say so myself. I'm really happy with how this project has gone over the years for me. I have been working on this project for so long, thanks to my friend Alexi, who started this project. I've been working on it in some way, shape, or form throughout many years, and it has been really a core part of my channel and a core part of just my makeup consumption in general. And so it is gonna feel maybe a bit foreign, a bit weird to not be working on this project. I am just rambling because this does feel very final right now. So I feel like I'm just trying to hold on to this project for as long as possible, but we gotta wrap it up. So that is everything. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, not only for watching today's video, but for keeping up with this project over the years, for hanging out with me in general, and just for being here, because I know I've been quite absent, especially in 2023. I've had a lot of periods where I just didn't upload, and I do want to really apologize for that, but I don't know when that will be resolved. So anyways, that is everything. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one, hopefully. Bye, everyone.